Hello, and welcome back to the American Field Trip Podcast, the podcast that thinks there's just 2 more switchbacks left. I hope y'all are doing well. Hope y'all are enjoying your spring. Hope you had a wonderful National Park week. Yeah. How are we doing, Maddie? How are you enjoying your spring?
Oh, I'm enjoying the spring so much. We started so many yard projects. I love being outside. The easiest place to be outside with when you have children and a husband that's working from home and you're like homeschooling everybody and you don't always want to be carting people places is to have a yard that's really enjoyable.
Yeah, I think that's one of our favorite things about moving out to the suburbs. The yards are nice.
It's really nice to have a yard and to have a dog that can run around in said yard.
Yes.
Okay, so we have stuff for you. The Scuttlebutt today deals with a trail closure at Yosemite. There was a huge rock slide on the John Muir Trail, and there's about 1,000 feet of trail that is covered in giant granite boulders.
Dang.
The trail that goes up to Nevada Falls. So this is part of the John Muir Trail, but Nevada Falls is one of the most popular hikes in Yosemite. So this is a big deal. And the John Muir Trail is a permitted through hike that is also a big deal. This affects access to Half Dome. This is it's a bad deal.
That's going to disrupt some
It's
plans.
going to disrupt a lot of people. And I'm sure the park will have their hands full keeping people off of that area because it really is very unsafe. But I'm sure people will want to persist with their plans anyway. So don't do that. Don't be that guy. Be safe if you're going to Yosemite.
Keep it safe.
Hopefully they can get it cleared up, but they've got to like dynamite all of the very big boulders. So they've got to get rid of all of that stuff. And then they've got to assess it for like further rock slide danger because again, that's a very popular area. So super dangerous.
That's a serious trail too. The trail up to Nevada Falls is it's like a big, broad, really well-built trail. That's like a pretty intense one.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot to clean up.
So that's the
shout out to the trail maintenance crews at Yosemite.
That's the park Scuttlebutt.
There's someone's summer right there.
Yeah,
fixing that thing.
Yeah, and again, like why I'm not upset that fees are going up in a lot of the parks because they just have such a backlog of maintenance. That,
they do.
I mean, I wish they would be funded better on a federal level, but if we can help out as park visitors, like
every little bit helps.
Yeah. So our question today comes from P. Deshawn. How would you say that?
PDECHON.
Who asked, does visiting parks with older kids feel like you're discovering a whole new park? This question was interesting to me because we never really did national parks without kids.
Yeah.
Or like I had done them as a kid
we did
myself.
them as kids ourselves.
But there was never a time where I was an adult, and either of us, because we got married like as soon as we became
we got
adults.
married. We got married super young. So I mean, I did them as like a teen, like as Boy Scouts. Like we went to national parks and things.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some experiences as like an older.
Yeah, you had a little bit
kid.
more than me. We jumped into park visiting when we had a 3 and 1 year old is when we started our trip to visit all the parks. Now our kids are 10, 8, and 4. So we still have a little kid, but I also feel like when we were doing parks with our little kids, it didn't really keep us from doing a lot of the things we wanted to do. Like our own fitness and like prowess probably kept us from doing things more than my kids.
We're not like people who were once, mountain climbers and then they had kids and had to slow down.
No, the kids could keep pace with us just fine.
They could. We've always kind of, as a family, been on about the same level.
It's a little harder to hike with kids, but I don't know, not significantly. So the kids being older, the things that have changed are that the junior ranger programs, they're like independent with them, the older kids, and that's really, really fun. And they've learned a lot more about history and science and all of the areas that the junior ranger program touches on. So it's really fun to be able to integrate all of the things that they've learned into whatever park we're visiting. There's a lot of things that they're curious about that didn't really come up before. We don't have to deal with nap times. Like everybody's just a bit easier now. And I'm excited to see when they're teenagers, like, and as they're getting older, like I really hope that we can do I don't know, like a longer biking trip, more backpacking.
Yeah.
Things that we could do with them, but
will be easier when they're
a little more independent on their feet. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff that we're excited for, but they're at really fun ages for exploring national parks right now. Mm-hmm. And we just really like it.
I feel like they've been into different things as they've gotten older, they get interested in different things.
Yeah.
That's been fun. That's probably the biggest difference is like leaves and sticks and stuff were very exciting. And then, they start getting excited more about like wildlife and then cool geologic features and things. Their appreciation changes a bit, which is cool.
Yeah. And we just really like doing stuff with our kids. I saw like an Instagram post the other day from, I don't know what the account was, but they were talking about like, is there anything that is more fun with kids than to do just as like a child-free adult? And I was thinking like, yeah, like everything. I think almost everything is more fun for me with kids. It's a very personal thing, but like I really love doing everything with our kids. So our quick trick today comes from our neighbor Kim, who asked us recently if Cuyahoga Valley is worth visiting. She had heard that it's kind of in a city that is like similar to Hot Springs in the sense that it's more of a city with like a couple of nature-y things to do. And so she's also trying to visit all of the national parks and just kind of slowly like working her way through those, and was asking if Cuyahoga Valley is worth visiting. But she wouldn't be spending a lot of time there. It would probably be like going through for the day. So this is a very quick trip. Cuyahoga Valley is absolutely worth visiting. We think all the parks are, but Cuyahoga Valley maybe surprises a lot of people in that it does have a lot of population centers around it, but it is very, very beautiful. It reminds us of like a state park, in the sense that I guess there are more state parks in the east than there are national parks, just because like European settlers had taken over all the east before they thought to not like chop all the trees down everywhere, which is why there's more national parks in the west. Not because the west is more beautiful or more worth preserving, but because they
just settled later.
They just like it did not occur to them, I guess. Anyway. So it reminds us of a lot of those eastern state parks that are very woodsy. There's waterfalls, there's a river. The history of it is really cool because the Cuyahoga Valley used to be extremely polluted, so much so that the river started on fire spontaneously.
Yeah. It's come a long way.
It's come a very long way.
It's a fun sort of conservation success story, that Cuyahoga Valley is really what it is today. And it's very, like, it's not Yosemite, it's not this crazy, like, there's no big dramatic feature like a lot of the Western parks.
A vista.
Yeah, there's not like a mountain or something, but there is a beautiful valley, and it's a very, we've talked about this before about like kind of small, medium, large scale landscapes. Cuyahoga Valley is sort of a small scale landscape where
small and medium.
It's maybe cozy. Like there's it's very deciduous. And so all the trees are like very close in. There's like really cool little ravines and brooks and, leaves and birds and wildlife. Like it's a lot closer in. You're not getting these like big, long views like you do in the Western United States.
It's also a different kind of visitorship because you get a lot of people who are mostly locals that are coming to visit the park.
It's in the suburbs. It's in the middle of the Cleveland suburbs.
Yeah, there's not a ton of people, perhaps. I mean, I can't say this definitively, but when we have been there, and we've been there several times, it does not feel like there's a lot of people coming from a really long ways to visit Cuyahoga Valley specifically. It's not like a destination trip in general. So it's a lot of local people that are coming there to like ride their bikes and take a little hike. And totally. I really like that vibe. It's very fun.
It's a fun vibe. And it's also very well suited to like a quick little trip, because if you're driving I-80 through Ohio, you will pass through Cuyahoga Valley, and it's just a really lovely pit stop. Like even if you're just passing through, just like hop off and go hike to Brandywine Falls or something like that,
Yeah.
Go park, take a walk. It's super worth it.
Yeah. I wouldn't say there's anything at Cuyahoga Valley that's like, you have to see this. Like you have to see Yosemite Valley or you have to see Old Faithful. Or there aren't necessarily things like that, although there are a lot of
Those are beautiful
things
waterfalls.
that I think you should do
There's
if
some
you're there.
great trails.
But the trail suggestions I had for her were to go to Brandywine Falls, which is a beautiful waterfall, very simple boardwalk trail to get there. That would be a quick one.
Yeah. You can't pass through and not stop, especially in the spring.
Yeah, we really when the waterfall is at its peak. We really loved the Ledges Trail, which has some cool rock formations. It's very woodsy, mossy. It's just like feels pretty magical. And also the Blue Hen Falls Trail, which again is just a lovely waterfall, little river that you follow, and they're just really, really nice. Neither of those is a tough hike. They're both pretty short, and you can get a sense of the park by getting out on a trail. And if I had one day at Cuyahoga Valley, that's what or even just an afternoon, I would prioritize going on a hike versus trying to like hit a bunch of little stops. But I also think that the train is really worth taking a little ride on.
The train is so cute.
Going to some of the little historic sites where they have reenactments. They have local people that come in and will tell you about the history of the railroad and the history of the conservation of the area, which is really fun and worth doing.
Yeah.
So
it's a good park. Don't drag Cuyahoga Valley. It's awesome.
We really like it.
It's a winner.
Yeah.
And I mean, no shade on Hot Springs, but it's a lot more outdoorsy. There's a lot more outdoor rec opportunities than Hot Springs.
Yeah.
Cuyahoga Valley is solidly like centered around forest and water and trails and things like that. Hot Springs is historic and has like the hot springs.
Yeah, it's really more of a historic site.
Yeah.
Awesome. So while you're gearing up for your summer trips to national parks, we wanted to go over a little safety tip for you, which concerns wildlife and getting close to wildlife. So before we get into that, we want to shout out our sponsor, LL Bean. LL Bean sponsors this podcast and part of our lives and all of our clothing.
They are the best.
We love them so much.
They have clothed us for many years now.
Yes. And now some of the clothes are coming through like round 3 as they've been passed down from our oldest to our youngest. Still holding up great. And it's so cute seeing the kids wear things that their older siblings wore.
Yeah. Go check them out for all your outdoor gear needs.
Yes. Okay, so recent trend on TikTok, there was an account called Screenshot HQ that was doing like interviews on the streets with people, and they asked specifically women if they would rather be stuck in the woods with a bear or with a man. Questions ensued about like what kind of bear, what kind of man, and with no further detail about either of those beings.
This has the makings of a lot of clickbait headlines.
Yes. The women said bear. And it's kind of become a trend on TikTok, and a lot more women have chimed in and pretty unequivocally said bear, including a lot of women who have a lot of experience with bears. So this isn't just like people don't realize that bears aren't cuddly. This is like most women realize that a random man has perhaps more chance of hurting you than a random bear.
Yeah.
So this made me think about wildlife encounters in the woods and what you do if you see a bear. I can't speak to like your safety if you're a solo hiker seeing a man. That is a topic for a different episode.
Questions. I would say my comment was that the way that question was phrased very much implies that it's a threatening man. That like if you meet a creeper in the woods, definitely worse than meeting a bear in the woods.
I think
for sure.
I think the experience of being a woman kind of leads you to imply that the man might very well be threatening, because it's anyway.
Sure.
If you don't know the man, like just assume that it's not great.
Yeah.
So, but we're not.
But what do you do if you see a bear?
We won't get into all of that. But we did want to give you a few quick tips about wildlife when you are hiking in particular.
If you would rather meet that bear, what should you do when you do?
So this is mainly geared toward people who are lean more beginner in outdoor spaces, because if you're doing like a lot of backpacking or you're heavy into this outdoor stuff, you should and probably have done more research on the specifics of the kind of wildlife you might encounter and exactly what to do, and have like first aid prep and everything that you need just in case. So this is more for like the beginner hiker, especially in national parks where there's a lot of wildlife because they are generally large areas that are preserved, and preserving the wildlife is one of the purposes of many parks. You're more likely to encounter a bear or a moose or, elk, bison.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my favorite tip for this, and one that's really great to teach your kids and to just have in your back pocket, is the rule of thumb, which is that if you stretch out your hand,
you should be able to cover it with your thumb.
Stretch your arm out all the way, and you should be able to cover the wildlife completely with your thumb. If you're not able to do that, you're too close.
Yeah.
You're too close. This is good because obviously larger animals you should stay farther away from, like a squirrel. You should also not approach a squirrel, but you can get closer to a squirrel because they're small, so it's easier to cover them with your thumb. So I think this is a really good just general tip. Every year we hear about tourists who visit national parks and think that it would be cute to get a picture with a bison up close. Generally, it seems like many of the problems happen with bison because other animals, people are more aware that they are not docile.
They seem so peaceful.
They do.
They're not.
We've been told by rangers that bison are, well, first of all, bison can charge and can be very aggressive and don't like you approaching them, particularly if they have a baby nearby. So don't ever approach a bison. But also, bison lead to a lot of injuries in parks because people don't expect that because they kind of just look like cows and they're just like hanging out very peacefully.
And especially in Yellowstone, they hang out right next to the road.
Yeah.
So they come into human spaces very confidently.
Mm-hmm. And if you stay in a lodge or something, you can come across them.
Yeah, you'll run into them.
And you should back away.
Yes.
Bears, we've been told from rangers that people tend to respect bears a lot more and stay away from them. But moose are also a big problem because people think a moose is just like a big deer and it's fine.
Yeah.
No, moose are very, very aggressive.
Moose can be super aggressive.
And a moose can mess you up.
Moose are like, just by body mass, they're big. They're
huge.
Big,
they're
heavy.
So tall.
If it runs over you, it's bad. Like it's a lot of weight. It's a big, heavy thing.
So the general rule of thumb when you are hiking is if you see wildlife, just do not get close. If there's wildlife on the trail and you move back and wait for them to get a safe distance off the trail so that you can cross, and they don't do that, you might have to change your plans and turn around.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is try to like skirt around wildlife that is in your way. Avoid them.
Also, like if you come across a moose on the trail, there's a non-zero chance that there's like a baby moose in the bushes around that moose. Like if you run across a calf or something, that would be real bad. If you try to go around and bushwhack your way around this moose and then run into the baby, you're gonna be just bad. Don't try. So
the best way that you can avoid having a negative wildlife encounter is to stay far away. And it's easy for you to stay far away if you can see where they are. If you come across one unexpectedly, that's when you get a lot of problems because a surprised animal is a much more aggressive animal. So our second tip, other than staying away and abiding by the rule of thumb, is to make noise on the trail.
Yeah. Don't surprise the animal.
Don't surprise an animal. If you are in a bear area, the best thing that you can do is hike with other people because it's very rare for bears to attack groups of people, especially of 3 or more.
Like never happens.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has happened at some point, but almost never.
There are instances, especially in the last few years, as like climate change is affecting bear populations in Alaska and it's messing up the food chain and hibernation schedules and yada yada. There are instances of bears attacking, like stalking and attacking 2 people. But in general, it is extremely rare for bears to approach a group of people.
Yeah.
So if you're in an area with wildlife, it is really best to stick to trails that are populated if you're by yourself or hike in a group. We love hiking with kids because we never surprise wildlife because
They're
they are
super
so loud.
Yep.
But if you don't have that, you can wear a bear bell, you can tap sticks, you can sing to yourself or whatever. But just make sure that you are making some noise. Don't be too stealthy. Even if you're just like walking loudly.
Yeah. Or having a conversation with your friends that you're hiking with. You know, if you're chatting on the trail, that I think is usually enough. And this really applies really applies in areas where like there are bears. Like if you're hiking in Glacier or Yosemite or like a place that is far enough out that you know that there are bears around and you have a chance of running into one. If you're just kind of like in your local park, maybe you don't need to put on a bear bell. Like you're going to be okay. But if you're out like in the woods and the mountains, like it's a good idea. You need to think about it.
If you're in a very bear heavy area, like in Alaska or Canada, that is definitely something that
it's something to keep in mind for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
If you do encounter an animal on the trail that's too close for you to pass by, you back up. You make noise and you back up.
Yeah.
And
don't panic.
Don't panic.
Like just remaining calm is honestly like 99% of not having a bad wildlife encounter.
Yeah, do not run away because for a lot of animals that triggers their prey and their predator instinct and they will chase you.
For bears, that specifically.
Especially for bears. So back up slowly, keep them in your sight, don't turn your back. I also want to say that like this is not something that happens to a lot of people, especially on popular trails at national parks. Like this is not something you're probably going to encounter.
It's pretty rare.
But we've had bear encounters with the amount of time that we've spent hiking in parks. We've had bear encounters. We've had encounters with moose and some other big animals. And the main thing to do is, just stay calm. You back up. You make noise. Continue to make noise. If they are starting to approach you, you just keep on moving back. Keep that rule of thumb distance. Get as far away as you can. And then wait. Wait for them to move on. And you can continue on your merry way. Again, you might have to turn around and go back. You might want to wait where you are, especially if it's a popular trail, for more people to come. Even if the bear or animal has kind of moved off. We did this with a moose once in Glacier National Park. We were kind of waiting for it to get farther away off the trail. And when a larger group of people had kind of accumulated at that point on the trail, we felt better about moving through with like 12 people than with just our little family.
And the moose kind of saw everyone and moved away.
Yeah.
You just kind of take your time.
So be noisy, be in a group if you can, and keep your distance.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. And there aren't a lot of wildlife attacks in parks or anything like that that are
rare.
Unprovoked. It's very rare. I don't think it's a reason to avoid any of these areas, but you are going into their home. So very important to be mindful and cognizant of that fact and to be to prioritize your and the animal's safety over like completing whatever you set out to do.
And having like a cool sort of National Geographic wildlife experience where you come upon a bear and you have to like sit there quietly and watch it, and back up. That's a much cooler story than like, oh my gosh, I ran into a bear and then I like tried to move past it and it charged me. Like
that's a bad story.
That's a bad story. That's a story that everyone's going to judge you for. Even if your plans have to change, that's a cool story to tell.
Also, along those lines, you are not a wildlife photographer, probably. Maybe you are listening to this. If you are not a wildlife photographer, I know that it would be cool to have like a picture or a video of a bear that like looks pretty close up. I know that that's a cool thing to post and you want to like show your friends.
Get that long lens, get that long zoom out.
Don't get close at all and get to a safe distance before you try. I know that it's like your bear pic will look cooler if you take it first and then back up. But like, don't do that because your picture of a bear is not going to look as cool as a picture like a Nat Geo photographer's picture of a bear. So just enjoy other people's wildlife photography and don't think that like you're going to get, I don't know.
Or if you do, I mean, if you are into that, the wildlife photographers that I know are some of like the most respectful of animal. Like they're extremely respectful of animals.
Oh, 100%. If that's the route you want to go. But if you're just like taking a picture with your iPhone or something,
don't do that.
just like, Just think, is it worth it?
Don't sneak up for a picture.
The picture's probably not going to be very cool.
Don't
you guys.
be that. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. If you want to take wildlife pictures, go pick up a real nice long zoom lens.
Yeah.
And then you can be at that safe distance and zoom in and get that nice shot.
There you go. Well, that is our episode for you today. We hope you stay safe. We hope you feel comfortable in the woods with the bear that you've chosen to be in the woods with rather than being in the woods with a random man.
Nice.
We hope this has given you some tips. Maybe sometime we'll talk about what to do with black versus brown bears and if they actually start like coming at you. Because if you're going to Alaska, that's something that you should know.
Yeah, the details of bear safety.
Yeah, but as a general thing, the rule of thumb will keep you safe in almost all of your wildlife encounters.
Give them their space.
That's what they need. Okay, thank you so much for joining us today, and have a happy week.
We'll catch you next time.